I think it may be the only path to taming the business cycle and fueling sustainable global economic growth.
Who is entitled to the windfall profits earned from the ensuing economic explosion? If this economic explosion transpired in today's financial markets, the owners of capital, the rich, would become the primary benefactors. The monetization of global equity and resources will produce a huge wave of trickle-down supply-side economic stimulus. In order to unleash a trickle-up supply-side tsunami, we the people of Earth should acquire substantial yield of the world's natural resources and global enterprises in concert with the procreation of a real money and the implementation of guerrilla capitalism. We the people of Earth will become a private public trust owned by nations for the benefit of their respective citizens. We the people of Earth will acquire real assets, the world's natural resources, and global businesses that will implicitly back a new global monetary system, including a new currency, real money, with its own independent reserve bank. The public trust will be led by a board comprised of business and political luminaries nominated by their peers and ratified by a vote of all people. The capital for our new private public trust for we the people of Earth will be provided by each nation. Nations will exchange their gold reserves, natural resources, and ownership stakes in private enterprise for a share of the trust. Additionally, nations will fund the acquisition of private enterprises. In concert with these actions, all nations will open their markets and adopt a plan to phase out their respective sovereign currencies over a number of years, while embracing real money as the world's monetary standard. How will real money harness the business cycle, transforming it into a sustainable fountain of prosperity? Consider our future an economy dominated by a single global currency, real money, backed by real assets, including substantial yield of earth, gold, oil, and other natural resources. Over time, as these resources are depleted, the notional value on the balance sheet of our real money reserve bank will decline. Since we will need to expand our real money supply over time, we must replace the value of depleted natural resources as well as grow real assets to match monetary expansion to prevent a devaluation in our global currency. While inflation and currency devaluations represent a serious threat in a multi-currency global economy, in an economy dominated by a single currency standard, the notional value of real money can only be measured in terms of real assets. We the people's public trust will own our global enterprises, and our real money reserve bank will own our natural resources and global reserves. Smaller businesses and real estate not owned by our global enterprises will continue to be owned by individuals. Our global banks backed by our real money reserve bank will continue to lend to businesses and finance real estate. The monetary expansion and supply-side stimulus would normally inflate the value of global real estate, but since we will use our natural resource monopolies to raise prices and profits, the value of real money will rise relative to global real estate, reducing the cost of living for consumers. Consider the notion of a strong or weak currency in a world dominated by a single monetary standard. In today's multi-currency regime, a strong or strengthening currency means that imports are cheaper and exports are more expensive. In a single currency global economy, notional fluctuation in the value of real money in terms of real assets will have no effect on the imports or exports of national economies. In a single currency global market regime, the strengthening of real money will reduce costs across the board while weakening or diminishing its value or raise costs. In a single global currency regime, a strong currency will raise the prosperity of humanity by reducing costs and increasing consumer buying power. In order to maintain the strength of real money as the natural resources held by our reserve bank are depleted, our real money reserve bank will acquire a passive 15% stake in global real estate mortgages. This will reduce the costs of owning real estate for individuals and businesses, while building the balance sheet of the reserve bank with the real asset most likely to inflate into a market bubble. Once our reserve bank acquires substantial global real estate equity, rising real estate prices will be muted by a corresponding increase in the value of real estate owned by the real money reserve bank. This balance will enable us to grow our global economy dramatically faster without fueling inflation. A real money monetary standard will fuel a tsunami of supply-side stimulus and harness the business cycle. Opening global markets and adopting a single global monetary standard will lift the boats of almost all people. The corrupt and criminals will be threatened by real money. An electronically traceable virtual monetary standard will take a big bite out of money laundering and criminal activity. How will the corrupt and criminals hide their commerce when real money transactions are traceable? While real money monetary system will restructure and recapitalize our global enterprise, endowing we the people of Earth with a better and more prosperous future, another innovation that we call guerrilla capitalism promises to advance our new free enterprise to the next level. How will we share the bountiful windfall profits created by our concerted actions? We may equitably distribute those profits to every person. An additional 110 a day in income will mean very little to those living in developed nations. Such a bounty may be a lifesaver to the poorest among us. For guerrilla capitalism to more directly benefit the rich and middle class, consumers will earn guerrilla equity in tracking stock with 7-year vesting with the enterprise or industry in an amount equivalent to 1/3 of the profits from purchases or other activities. Additionally, guerrilla equity may augment or replace wages for traditional employees as well as virtual workers in cyberspace. All of these approaches to profit sharing will produce a trickle-up supply-side economic stimulus. If we can generate an incremental profit from the actions of our citizens, then IT rewards us both individually and collectively to incentivize those profit-generating activities by sharing those profits. The dividends from the accumulated guerrilla equity will supplement individual and aggregate incomes and drive sustainable economic growth. This guerrilla equity will grow into an enormous pyramid of rising dividend income. This trickle-up supply-side economic stimulus will enable a self-perpetuating fountain of wealth creation. Guerrilla capitalism monetizes human capital. The rise of technology and the internet is democratizing information and changing the dynamics of capitalism. Free products and services disrupt and disintermediate the traditional business models. Guerrilla capitalism promises to disintermediate the business models of technology and financial enterprises by tapping vast pools of exploited human capital. In order to understand the disruptive and transformative effect of guerrilla capitalism, imagine that our acquisition spree commenced with a 1015 billion acquisition of Facebook. The equity of Facebook would be placed in the public trust for we the people of Earth and implicitly back real money when issued. Since our public trust owns Facebook's equity, we may choose to implement a revolutionary profit-sharing initiative that promises to tap Earth's vast underutilized pool of human capital. Today, when a user spends time or clicks on an ad, Facebook earns profits for its owners. Once we the people's trust owns Facebook, we may choose to share 1/3 of profits in the form of guerrilla equity with each user for their activities and clicks. The guerrilla equity will be a tracking stock for the performance of Facebook's business. In effect, the internet-based actions by humans creates revenue and profits for our public trust while each individual is rewarded with an investment paying dividends. What happens to Facebook's revenues, profits, and subscriber growth when we begin sharing those profits on a microtransactional basis with real equity? Every new user will generate profits on Facebook, so why not offer users a bounty to 1/3 or more of those profits from signing up? What happens when we the people's Facebook signs up 35 billion users? While we suggested Facebook is an initial catalyst, any strong internet-oriented technology companies such as Apple or Google can easily become the champions for we the people and real money. Guerrilla equity could repair the broken and breaking business models in the music and entertainment industry. Imagine a world where the only way to earn equity in a business or brand is to purchase and or use their products and services. Movie franchises and entertainers may issue tracking stocks for their brands that distribute guerrilla equity to those who pay for their products. Why pay for music when you can download it for free? The only way to acquire equity in the brand will be to buy the product in order to earn a share of the profits in guerrilla equity. The value of the brand equity earned will compound in a pyramid fashion with the popularization of the respective brand. Guerrilla equity may also be deployed to incentivize the quest for knowledge. When the advancement of a virtual reality-based cyberspace enables classes and education to delivered over the internet, we may use guerrilla equity to pay educators as well as students. If we can demonstrate that advancing an individual's human capital with education generates profits for our public trust, then it will make sense internet-based education for free, and we may further profit from paying students in real equity to learn. Building a real money business. What is the future of money? What lies beyond our Byzantine patchwork of fiat currencies? Will a new monetary system enable us to eliminate systemic risks and create stable, sustainable growth? How will we, the people of Earth, procreate a new global monetary system? Can you imagine a political institution such as the United Nations leading the adoption of a new monetary standard? Sovereign nations will be extremely reluctant to give up their power to print money. A new stable global currency must be implicitly backed by more than debt-laden government institutions. The Reserve Bank managing this new currency should be independent from sovereign nations. This new money should be implicitly backed by real assets on the balance sheet of its Reserve Bank. Our new currency may take advantage of technology to make real money entirely virtual, electronically held in individual accounts with every transaction traceable. If the real money Reserve Bank is to be an independent institution, then who will own IT, and who will earn the profits from printing money? The only logical answer to this question is we, the people of Earth. Sovereign nations will own stakes in the Reserve Bank on behalf of their citizens. How do we procreate a new private global institution with the power and credibility to print real money that will become the world's primary currency? We may hope that political leaders will lead us to a new monetary standard. It is likely the leaders of sovereign nations will only act in concert to create a new global monetary system when faced with the crisis and global financial meltdown. What could possibly provoke the leaders of diverse sovereign nations to support opening up their markets and the procreation of a new global currency? How could these divergent national interests agree on the structure and ownership of a new global reserve bank? Why will leaders subordinate their national currencies to a new global monetary standard? Why will they debase their own currencies to drive up the real value of real money? To answer these questions and put this choice in perspective, imagine that the circle below represents the real value, GDP, or aggregate mark-to-market value of our global enterprise. Now imagine that a plan could be implemented to grow our real value, GDP, or mark-to-market value of global enterprise into a much larger pie depicted below. The different scenario between these two scenarios represents the opportunity cost from failing to achieve our benefit over the future. If by selecting the plan to procreate real money in guerrilla capitalism, we can grow our pie this dramatically, then it makes little sense for our leaders to waste much time arguing over how to slice this pie. When the value of real money rises relative to the world's currencies, the real money costs to acquire Earth's natural resources and businesses will decline. In order to understand why nations will debase their own currencies in favor of real money, you must realize that in the future we procreate together. Every nation, representing their citizens, will share profits from this same pie. We know that the stimulative effects of opening global markets and the monetary supply side tsunami will catapult economic growth. We know that real money and guerrilla capitalism will lift most boats. Therefore, pie should acquire Earth's profitable enterprises and natural resources in advance, so the windfall profits will accrue to all people. And across-the-board deflation in the values of sovereign currencies relative to real money reduces our cost to acquire real assets. While this deflation is a monetary illusion, the cost savings are real. Reality will become bifurcated between capitalism, as we know, IT, and an exploding economy driven by real money backed by pie's real assets, generating profits to be shared with all people. Everyone benefits from paying less real money to acquire Earth's real assets. If we acquire a whole enterprise and natural resources in a blitzkrieg buy-out, then we may pay more for some resources and enterprises than we plan to phase out or downsize. The improvement in time to realizing the benefits of real money may more than offset the higher cost of a blitzkrieg buy-out. An alternative approach is to build pie more slowly, acquiring the most profitable enterprises and resources with the most promising futures first, while allowing the prices of those left behind to be marked to market. Below we present a possible scenario for acquiring pie's real assets in a staged buy-out. But first let's review why we the people will support our cause. We the people of Earth are far from homogeneous. We are poor and we are rich. We hail from developing nations and fully developed ones, from rich nations and poor ones. We speak many languages, but we all count with the same numbers. We can slice and dice the demographics slice U.S., we the people of build in the blank will be more prosperous in a world fueled by real money and real capitalism. Our rising economic tide will lift the proverbial boats of everyone except for criminals and the vampires of casino capitalism. For the 80% of humanity surviving on less than $10 a day, 110 a day in dividend income from guerrilla equity will have a substantial impact upon the living standards of the poorest among the U.S. For the wealthiest among U.S., real money will eliminate systemic risks that threaten their individual fortunes and increase their risk-adjusted investment returns. For those wealthy individuals still engaged in the day-to-day leadership of businesses, the rise of a free global enterprise will enable businesses to advance to the next level. These business luminaries, along with the world's contemporary political leaders, will become founding fathers of our new world order. For some among the remaining 20%, opening of global markets may accelerate employment dislocations. The windfall profits from our plan will enable U.S. to provide generous severance benefits for those displaced. For many of U.S., our fortunes rise and fall with performance of the local or national economy. For those working in services that must be delivered in person, globalization and opening of markets will have little impact on their incomes. The economies of every nation on Earth are threatened with a change in fortune that will decimate the prosperity of the nation. While the poorest nations have very little to lose and very much to gain, our wealthier nations will benefit from the diversification that real money delivers. Now is a great time to merge the fortunes and interests of nations. If one or more of the economically destabilizing scenarios described below occur, then the risks of a regional or global war will rise. Russia, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Venezuela, Norway, and many other nations depend upon oil revenues to fuel their economies. While today these nations benefit from historically high oil prices, this income source may be decimated by a fall in oil prices or diminished as alternative technologies displace demand. By allowing these nations to exchange their oil reserves for a stake in pie and real money, the fortunes of these nations will be diversified. In effect, these nations will exchange their oil reserves for a share of all of the world's business enterprises and natural resources. Nations endowed natural resources, such as Canada, Australia, Chile, etc.,